Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Sean here once again, Sovereign Man I Am, back with another video. And as we left off in the last video, what we're going to focus on now is how we actually begin the process. We've looked at what the term ascension means, what we're talking about when we're looking at ascending into the fifth dimension. If you haven't seen that video, definitely go back and check it out. But now that we have actually defined what it is, what we're going to do is focus on how do we begin the process, how do we actually raise our frequency or our vibration, and start to look at some of the nuts and bolts in terms of practical steps we can take which will actually increase our vibration. So as we've said in the last video, it's really a question of going from a lower density, a third density or a third dimension, which is based in fear, and moving into a higher density, a higher vibration, the fifth dimension, which is based in unity and love. So comparing fear to love, fear is a very low and dense vibration, as you know, I'm sure from experience of feeling fear and anxiety. It has a tendency of sort of blocking us, tensing us up, and the feeling of love, of unity, and particularly unconditional love and love of all, really opens us up, raises us, and actually opens up our heart, which increases our vibration. So in terms of practical steps, how we can begin the process, a very wise person, a friend of mine, many years ago told me, the longest journey you'll ever make, Sean, is to go from your head to your heart. And really that is the process of ascending. We're leaving a mental, logical, linear focus and embracing a heart-centered existence, which is one of compassion, unity, again, and love. So one of the first things that we can do and focus on is trying as much as possible to get out of our minds, clear our minds, and move into our heart space. So how do we do this? There's a few different tricks that I use quite regularly when I feel myself being bogged down by stress or anxiety, and one of them is to get out as much of the idea of linear time as I can and focus on the moment, focus on now. As soon as we are focused in the moment, you'll see when you actually do it, just through experience, focusing on the present moment with 100% of your attention will actually bring you down into your heart space automatically. The other thing that I do quite frequently when I feel the need to, and what I advise many people that I speak to that are having a hard time, that are getting stressed out, whether it be from the past or the future, is to actually come down and feel how it feels inside our body. So if I'm walking down the street, or if we're sitting on the couch, let's say we're walking down the street, I'll tell them, or I'll focus myself on the feeling it feels inside my feet as I'm walking on the ground. Instead of feeling sort of the ground outside my feet, I'll start putting my attention inside my feet, inside my legs, inside my body, and then that'll in turn follow to inside my heart. As soon as I take my focus outside again of my mind, which is, our minds are constantly focused on either regretting or analyzing what happened in the past, or anxiously, stressfully, or sometimes even excitedly looking at the future. In either case, whenever we're looking at the present or the past, we're back in linear time, we're back in mind, we're back in ego and separation. As soon as we bring our attention to the present moment, we're back in essentially a fifth dimensional space, because three dimensions, our three-dimensional world is based in linear time. Our mind is always focused in the past and the future, where fifth dimensional consciousness and living is entirely focused, as we said in the last video, in the present moment. So if I start finding myself getting all caught up in thought, stress, anxiety, or depression or sadness about something that happened in the past, one trick that I use very often is to put my consciousness and my attention in the feeling of how it feels inside my body. If I'm sitting at home, I'll feel how it feels just to sit on the couch. How do my legs feel? How do my hands? Sometimes I'll even focus on the inside of my hands. As soon as I begin to focus on the feelings inside my body, it kind of grounds me back into the body, and it brings me back into a present present moment focus, which will almost automatically bring us back into our heart space, which is back, again, ascending in vibration. Because everything in our universe, including ourselves, is in constant motion, we are either, in every single moment, we are either ascending or descending. You'll notice when you start feeling blocked, when you're not feeling as spiritual, as open, or as loving, these are indications that we're actually descending in vibration. And when I notice that in myself, of course, this is a constant journey for us all. We're never complete. I find myself very often sliding back down. I'll get distracted by something. I'll see something on, YouTube or somewhere that'll bring me back into either, again, focused on regret, or focused on something in the past, or anxiously worried about the future. These are some of the tricks that I use myself. Another thing that I use quite often, which works very, very well to bring me back into the present moment, is to take very, very close and pay very close attention to my surroundings, find something that I find beautiful, and really focus on that. The minute we're focused on beauty, especially, I find myself very often going for walks. If I get stressed about something, I'll go take a walk, and I'll find a tree, I'll find a flower, I'll go down. I'm lucky enough to have a lake just a couple blocks from my house. I'll go down to the lake and sit by the lake and just focus on the beauty of the water, or a sunset, or even a tree. As soon as we bring our focus into appreciating something beautiful, again, it brings us right back into the now moment. The now moment is really where we want to reside as much as possible. And in the beginning stages, this can be a little bit more challenging. It takes a little bit more effort and focus to keep our mind in the present moment. But like any muscle, focusing in the present moment, keeping our consciousness in our hearts instead of our heads, becomes easier and easier. And I find now, again, I do get distracted. I do find myself entering linear time, or my mind, pretty often. But I find it's very easy now. I've been doing this long enough that I have these tricks that I use, and I bring my focus right back to the present moment. And as soon as I do, the stress that I felt, or the concern, or the anxiety I may have been feeling, vanishes almost immediately. So again, it takes a little bit of doing, a little bit of focus in the beginning, but as we practice more and more, this gets easier and easier and easier. And whenever I do fall back into linear time, or back into thinking, I find it easier and easier now to get out of it and to get back into love and to the present moment. So what we're doing is we can look at thought and linear time as basically ego. And when we are coming back into the present moment, we're moving our consciousness down again into our hearts. We're coming out of ego and we're moving into unity. And realize ego and separation, these are all illusions. The only thing that is actually true and real in our universe is love and unity. We are all one, even though the illusion persists that we're separate. It is in fact an illusion. And as you begin to progress, and you move again into the present moment and into your heart, it just gets easier and easier to do, and you do begin to see through the illusion of separation and realize there really never was any separation to begin with. So I have found some tricks, again, practically speaking, that we can sort of get back into the present moment, get back into our hearts when we get distracted, and I've made a list of some of them. One of them is just doing what you love. Anything like, especially anything creative, painting, writing, singing, dancing, but really anything that you're passionate about, helping someone else, having a conversation with a great friend, anything that we're passionate about, that we love, especially something that we're excited about. If we can focus our attention on something like that, it will again pull us back into the present moment. Whenever our consciousness is in the present moment, it's a good indication that we are increasing our frequency and our vibration is rising. Another thing is, and Anthony Robbins very often says, emotion comes from motion, but I find if I do again get bogged down, as I said, I go for walks, but really it doesn't necessarily need to be a walk. Movement of any type or any kind, exercise, yoga, walking, running, dancing, any type of movement can really break us out of getting bogged down in our minds, and get back into the present moment. Meditation, Meditation is a great practice, and just like getting into the moment and clearing our minds, it is something that, like a muscle, gets easier to do the more we practice it. That's why they call it practicing meditation. Very often people can only start with a minute or two, which is fine. But you'll see after you get used to a minute or two of meditation, it'll be easier to do 3, 4, 5 minutes. Before you know it, you'll be sitting there for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and really it'll seem like it was hardly any time passed at all. So it's a great practice to take on board and try to make a habit in our lives, and it really is one great way to get in touch with our higher selves, with our inner selves, and it's a great way to, again, practically speaking, increase our vibration. Again, staying present. I find nature, again, whether I'm looking at a tree or the lake or the sunset, nature really does fill me up with a great joy, and I find it's a great way for me whenever I am getting stressed out or bogged down or back into linear time. Anytime I can spend in nature is very, very helpful. Another thing is to really pay attention to what we are consuming, mentally speaking, and that's why in the first few videos I was talking about not paying attention anymore to the news or to the government or to really what's going on. Although it's important not to be naive, which is why I covered those topics, as far as really constantly giving them our focus, it really is something that'll bring down our vibration in quite a hurry, and it's important to really pay attention to what we are focusing on and paying attention to as much as we can. To listen to, watch, if you are watching things, positive, uplifting, whatever it is, if it's music or if it's a video like this, or if it's even anything that makes you laugh. It's important to really pay attention as we move forward and as we're working on increasing our vibration, what we're consuming mentally, especially on TV and radio and things like this. Another thing that really works, especially in the beginning, is forgiveness. Not only of people that have hurt us, but more importantly for ourselves, the things we may have done that we're not happy with or we're ashamed of. The main focus, especially in the beginning, is to love ourselves and to forgive ourselves as much as possible. Any type of grief, regret, sadness, looking back at the past, these actually do lower our vibration when we come to realize that the only thing that truly exists anyway is the present moment. Even the past is a perception right now based on the present moment that can actually be changed by our perception in the now. Forgiveness for obviously anybody that hurt us in the past will uplift us, will help us raise our vibrations, but the main focus as far as forgiveness, especially in the beginning, is to focus on forgiving ourselves and to stop really looking at the past with any type of regret or sadness or guilt or shame or anything like that. So that's another thing that helps. As I mentioned, seeing beauty, noticing beauty. If you can't leave your house or where you are, just take a look at your surroundings, find something that's beautiful to you, that you find attractive, and focus on that. And that'll really help, again, bring you back into the present moment. Whenever we're focused in the present moment, it's a good indication that our vibration is increasing. The other thing, which again came from Wayne Dyer, I quoted Wayne Dyer in the last video, but one of the things that really helped me in the early parts of my journey, I read one of his books, and one of the first lines in his books was to realize that we're not human beings having a spiritual experience, but in fact we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And when we shift our focus that way, we begin to see the very short and passing nature of our humanity, and we begin to embrace the fact that we are spiritual beings, we are eternal, and for me, focusing on that, realizing that this human experience is a very temporary one, helps bring me again back into the present moment, which helps me increase my vibration. And then again, as we talked about earlier, laughter, hanging out with good people, people that uplift us, people that encourage us, non-judgmental people, people that aren't necessarily bogged down with their own stresses. But even people that are bogged down, if we can spend just a minute or two actually helping uplift them, we'll notice that really helps to uplift ourselves as well. So those are, for me, some of the things that I use on a practical level on a daily basis to increase my vibration. As we had said, the three-dimensional world, our three-dimensional experience is linear. As we begin to increase our vibration and move into 5D, we'll notice it's not linear, but it's actually a spiral. And I noticed that as I've been doing this now for years, we do come back to the same issues over and over, and we perceive them from a higher perspective. But it's important that I continue on a daily basis with spiritual practice. It doesn't have to be so seriously taken in our minds, but some of these ways, just again, taking walks, feeling the feelings inside my body, focusing on something beautiful, turning off my mind as much as I can. You know, another great wise person, Eckhart Tolle, came out with a book called The Power of Now, which is a fantastic book. It helped me tremendously on my journey. If you can read that, if you can get a chance to get your hands on it and read that book, it's a book I'd suggest reading, because it really does show us that all our solutions are in the present moment. And really, as long as we're thinking, we're using our minds, we're in linear time, and generally whenever we're thinking about the past or the future, and we are completely missing our entire lives. When we do that, we're completely missing the moment, and the moment, this present moment, is where we want to be. So ascension, as we said, is the process of raising our vibration. These are tricks to get us out of fear, to get us out of our mind, to get us out of our egos, and to put us back squarely in the moment, in the present. Whenever we're in the moment, we're not in fear anymore. And you'll notice whenever your attention is completely undivided in this present moment, it automatically opens up the heart space, and it brings us back into a feeling of love, compassion, and gratitude. So these are ways that like I say, these are steps that I would suggest anyone who's just starting to raise their vibration. Now we can look in further videos. We're going to get into more refined ways with our diet and so forth. But for now, these are very practical steps that we can all take, and they are steps that I take on a daily basis, and they help me keep a smile on my face. They help me stay grounded. They help me stay in the present moment. They help me stay in gratitude and in my heart space, which is, again, unconditional love. And there's no greater feeling and there's no greater fulfillment than feeling unconditional love, not just for our fellow man, but for all beings, animals, including trees. I find myself sometimes, if I'm down, I'll actually even sort of say hello in my mind to the trees. Even that really helps me increase my vibration. So these are the steps that have helped me on my journey. If you have any other ideas that I haven't thought of, definitely feel free to leave them in the comments below. But as far as beginning the process of ascending into the fifth dimension, these are great places to start. And what we're going to do is close this video here, and again, we'll come back, and what I'm going to do in the next video is actually look at some of the different signs, how we know. Sometimes it's not easy to know, or am I ascending or descending, but we'll look at some of the different signs, how it feels when we're ascending versus how it feels when we're descending. We've covered that a little bit in this video, but in the next video we'll get into a little bit deeper, and then we'll start looking at different ways to refine and further increase our vibration as we move along. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe, and I love you, and I'll see you on the next video.